Hello, this is Christina Simmons with the Say Yes to Holiness podcast. And today I have a very special episode in which I have a couple who are here and they are focusing upon something that many of us will struggle with, which is a life transition. And they particularly focus upon empty nesting. So I'm really looking forward to being able to talk with them. And without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and let you guys introduce yourselves, where you are, and a little bit about yourselves.
Thank you so much, Christina. My name is Karen Herbert, and I've been married to Curtis Herbert for 21 years. We live in the Minneapolis, Minnesota area. We have 3 young adult children, currently between the ages of 17 and 20. And we are the founders of Themelios Coaching, LLC. We work with empty nesting or almost empty nesting moms to manage that transition and really find the treasure that is waiting for them in the next season of life.
Uh-huh.
This is
Curtis?
my husband, Curtis.
Hi, Christina. So I was a lawyer for 20 years, and Karen started the coaching business. And at a certain point, she invited me to go get my training and to join her in that. So I accepted that invitation, and that's where we are today.
That's wonderful to be able to have couples doing this together, because I think so often we miss out on other perspectives, especially during these life transitions. And so I'm just going to take a gander, but how is it that you decided that you were going to focus upon empty nesting?
That's a great question. And actually, it was one that we really went back and forth around for quite some time. And we were generally interested in working with people in midlife who are in a similar situation that we're in right now. And we just found ourselves running into all these clients who were empty nesting or almost empty nesting moms. So it's almost like the demographic presented itself to us in who was coming to us and who we found that we really loved working with very much.
Mm. So what appeals to you about this particular, time of life? You made mention of the fact of the treasure that awaits us. So how would you describe that for somebody who right now they're looking at maybe the first one is going off to college and they're just going, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm going to do. How would you respond to them and kind of start to break open this idea of the treasure that awaits?
Sure. Well, I'll share a little bit and then I won't hog the mic. I'll let Curtis share as well. For me, I feel like this is such an exciting season of life
Mm,
because there's so much experience and wisdom. And we
mhm,
have just been through, it doesn't matter who you are, you've been through challenges, you've had struggles, you've grown in the process. You've gained so much wisdom from getting to this stage of your life. And nowadays there's much more of life as well to enter into. And it's just such an exciting season of possibility to
mhm,
take all that wisdom and bring it in a very personal way to make a unique contribution to the world, the only we can bring as
mhm.
individuals, as unique as we are.
Uh,
Yeah, and it's just such an exciting time of life because you aren't who you were 20 years ago, and because part of that midlife transition is understanding that what you expected in your 20s, well, maybe it didn't turn out that way, but that's fine. That can be great, and it's a time of looking forward to the opportunities. It's a time of leveraging your wisdom and experience as a mother, as a spouse, and using that to to dive into your own identity so you can bring your contribution to the world. And one thing in particular about this group is that So often, the world has a plan for you.
Hmm.
The culture has a plan for you.
Yep.
Your family has a plan for you. Maybe you've been serving the family really hard for 20 years, and now they're really excited because you can serve them in new ways going forward. And that's so great. But wait a minute, have you have to live your own life. That is what God has put in you, in your heart, and to bring that into the world, and to recognize that, what, God made you, and God made you as a mother. And this is the group we work with. And if you're not a mom, that's great too. Okay, but if that was your vocation and that's what happened, but you have other identities in God and in yourself to bring forward, and it's up to you to cooperate with what God's bringing you to make it all happen.
Hmm. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So one of the things, again, you talked about identity and how so often, especially in our culture today, we identify with, our identity is attached to what we do. So I'm a mom, so this is my identity. And yet there's so much more to who we are than what it is that we do, and it doesn't devalue at all, the reality of our motherhood, or our fatherhood. So you made mention about, kind of reconnecting with that sense of identity, and what it is that, you're being called to, God's calling you to. What might the process look like if someone who comes to you and says, I'm really kind of trying to make my, figure out my way here? What would you be doing with them? How would you help them?
Mhm. Well, one of the first things we do is to create that distinction between who you are and the roles that you play in
Mhm.
life. And and sometimes it is very easy to conflate those, as you said. And sometimes that is one reason why some people struggle with this transition, because this very significant and understandably important role is shifting,
Mhm.
and it becomes an identity issue
Right.
for some of us, understandably, because we have practically invested so much time and energy and personal involvement and emotion in
Mhm.
the raising of our family.
Right.
Um, but there is more to the human person.
Mhm.
So we want to disconnect who you are a little bit from the roles that you play. One of the ways we do that is we have a pretty serious values process of inviting people to redefine who they are through the lens of values. And we have to do it in a very specific way, because the arenas that you serve in and the roles that you play are actually not your values. You bring
Mhm.
your values to your family, you bring your values to your work, you bring your values to your service. But there's a process of coming to reconnect with who you are in all of those different situations and what you bring that is so unique to
Mhm.
you.
Yeah, so true. In my own work, and we were talking about it before we got on. I speak to people about 3 layers of their vocation, of who they are, what they are, and where they are. And so coming from a faith-based perspective, of course, that first call is that respond to God's, invitation to enter into relationship with Him, and to become fully who He created us to become holy. And then our roles, those state of life, are the ones that we tend to be most familiar with. But then so often we will merge that personal mission, with the role that we are. And so I love that you're taking people through this evaluation, this process that allows them to be able to recognize the values that they brought into, for example, motherhood, and playing and moving through that, but it was rooted in the values that they had to begin with. So going back and recapturing those. So once you take people through this values process, and being able to identify these, what else do you help people do?
Well, Christina, one thing I really liked a lot about your book was how you identified the personal mission with your personal strengths
Hmm.
and values and what you like to do,
Hmm.
what you're good at. And that's all part of creating that personal mission. And we completely agree. We have a different approach for helping people see all those things,
Right.
but that's really central to finding your unique contribution that you're going to make and
Mhm.
developing your sense of personal mission. And one thing that's very important to realize, and really, I think this is especially important for people with a strong spiritual orientation, is that we discover ourselves in action.
Mhm.
We see it's when we're in action that we start to really understand, oh, okay, these are my values, these are my strengths, and we start to understand um, what's next, and then we can start to receive what the Holy Spirit is bringing us. We can start to understand the lights that are being given to us, and sometimes we can fall into this very incorrect but understandable idea that if we're going to pray and it's going to come to us, or that that mission is going to come to us and we're going to see the end game and
Mhm.
we're going to make a direct beeline for it. But it didn't always work for the Israelites to head straight for the objective. They had to shift their orientation a few times, and that can definitely be the case for us as well.
Mhm. Absolutely. And what you're describing so beautifully is discernment in a nutshell, where we come to a greater awareness of an issue or something that is, there that we have to address, come to that deeper understanding. But the only way that we can, be able to really discern, to really make that choice, is to take action and then to see, okay, is this right, or is that the wrong way, or do we need to turn around and go that way, like the Israelites did. And so beautiful analogy. So you work to help people discern what's next. Does that kind of summarize it?
We do. We call it exploring,
Okay.
and we really invite people to always be
Hmm.
exploring what's next, uh, what might be possible for
Hmm.
them to step out and get the feedback, and as you were just saying, to maybe make a turn, go the other way. But it's in that action of exploring that we get the information we need, and we start to, as you said, have the awareness that we need to make our choices. And
Hmm.
sometimes that what happens, I think, is in this particular phase of transition, we get stuck. I was just speaking with someone this morning who was saying, well, I can't even really think about what I want or my next moves because I don't know what my young adult is doing, and they're in flux. So therefore I'm in flux.
Right.
And I just said, well, you're part of the puzzle here. You
Right.
are part of the pieces that are moving here. And so instead of hanging back and waiting for all of the other pieces to get settled before you make a step forward, you need to step forward and put yourself right there in the
Mhm.
mix with everyone else. Because I know as moms, we wait for everyone else
Yeah.
to make their choices and we put ourselves last.
Hmm.
But it's so powerful when we allow ourselves to be in the picture and to be part of all those moving pieces.
Well, one of the things that you express that you guys like to work with is being able to help people take that mom guilt, that perfectionism, and really move into self-compassion. And I think that's a perfect example of exactly how that might work.
Mhm.
Is that we have to be compassionate with ourselves, so much so that we're willing to go ahead and step out and say, this is where I feel I'm being led. And you guys can react to me a little bit.
Mhm. Yes.
No,
Exactly.
exactly. I like how you call it exploring. So is there a particular reason why you chose exploring as kind of that metaphor for people?
Well, we were really struggling a little bit because we noticed that one of the traps that people can fall into is just wandering, just
Hmm.
doing the next thing, either from the cultural expectations or the expectations of people around us. Um, just doing, well, I guess this is what I should be doing now with this season of my life.
Right.
And that's a tremendous trap. And yet we feel like there really are a lot of moving pieces in this season. And it's very challenging if you were trying to make, say, a strategic plan, or
Right.
make the step A, B, C, D, and then I will get here, because it's not the kind of situation where you can do that. So exploring really captured what we felt like the experience was, and it also adds to that analogy of you're looking for some treasure, and there's various ways to get there, and you might be surprised even along the way at the treasures that you find. But when you're exploring, you're taking those steps and you're seeking the treasure. You're taking action.
Yeah, and Christina, exploring is a great counterpart to the planning mentality, and so
Mhm.
often, w- w- our experience is that we know how to plan things, we know how to anticipate the details, we know how to plan for contingencies, but for the big objectives in life, often don't succumb to planning. They
Mhm.
require experimentation and trial and error. And this is often what can be so disappointing in the spiritual life is
Mhm.
we're bringing a planning exploration model, or excuse me, we're bringing a planning game to an to what we need to do is an exploration. And
Mhm.
the reason I was struggling, because all I could think of, we're bringing a knife to a gunfight, is what I was
Oh,
thinking.
yeah. No, I
And
mean,
it's just completely not going to work.
no, it's absolutely true. And so I love the fact that, the other part is that when you explore, you're being intentional.
Mhm.
You're bringing intentionality
Yes.
to, to what it is that you're about. And the intentionality might be for one thing and it turns out to be something else. But the fact is that you were intentional about doing it because you wanted to see if it would take you to A or to B. And you're absolutely right that so often we just kind of, and I think it's not just midlife, but I think so often it's at other points in our life that we'll get into this kind of, oh, this is the next thing that comes, and this is, and we don't live with an intentionality. We lose our purpose. And that's what is so appealing to me about the work that you guys are doing, is because you're helping people be able to discover that deep, deep purpose that they knew and were passionate about. And then kind of kids, family, didn't get in the way, but it kind of put it on pause for many people. And so this is an opportunity to be intentional about recapturing the essence of, who it is that we are, to, our stories were continuing to be written as we're moms, and taking care of our families. But now for us to not have necessarily someone else writing in notes, but we get to be the main author again. And so it's absolutely beautiful. So if somebody wanted to work with you guys, what might that look like? How might they get in touch with you? And you know kind of, do you work with people just as needed, or do you have a process or a program, or
Mhm.
explain a little bit more?
Oh, thank you so much for asking. We do work individually with clients, and we do enjoy that. One of our central hopes and dreams we are starting to bring to fruition, which is a group or a community program where women who are entering the empty nest can share the transition and the transformation together, and they can walk through the process with other women in the same place in life. And that has been so fulfilling for us. And it's been very effective for the women who are going through the program. We call it the Life in Abundance Coaching Program. And we're very excited to continue to grow the program. I think if anyone has an interest, probably the best thing to do is to email us. It's Karen and Curtis at THML Coaching. .com. That's Karen and Curtis at THMLcoaching.com.
Super. And I'll make sure to put that in the show notes so people can get in touch with you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, not at all. So you guys have such a diversity of backgrounds, and you bring such a wealth of your own wisdom and experience, to your coaching. And it's something that so often we forget, that the church herself tells us that we aren't to do this alone. We're supposed to be in relationship with others. And there is, as you said, the group dynamic, and to be able to walk in community, but especially to be able to have someone that we can turn to, ask those questions, and we're being intentional about how we go about, discerning what comes next. Because, use your own words, it is a treasure that awaits people, and that's absolutely beautiful. Before we I can't believe we've already been spending time. We're already at the end of our time. But if there was any piece of wisdom that you would like to share with people, before we kind of sign off, that you could leave with people to think about, what would it be?
Do you mind, Curtis, if I answer this one? What's on my heart is, I've talked to so many women who are stuck in the midst of this transition, and it's hard for them to see the treasure. It's hard for them to even believe it's possible. It's hard for them to make wishes for themselves, for their life, because they haven't done it in so long. So I would just want to say, it is possible. It is possible for you. There is abundance. There is treasure in the next season. There's a lot of life, and God has a very special plan for each of you for these very special years. So look to God and listen to the Holy Spirit, and believe there is a very abundant treasure for you.
That's absolutely gorgeous. I so appreciate that. And, it's something that, regardless, again, of what stage in life you are, there is treasure in all of it. And so what a beautiful piece of wisdom for us to hold on to, regardless of whether or not we feel like we're stuck where we are, or whether or not we're continuing through. That is the goal, to find the treasure in the field, and to be able to experience the abundance of it. So it's been such a joy to being able to spend time with both of you today. And thank you so much for all the work that you're doing. It is so needed. We all need people to walk with and to accompany us on the journey. And so I'm so glad that you guys are out there and you're doing this. So once again, this is Christina Simmons with the Say Yes to Holiness podcast. I hope that you've enjoyed our conversation with both Karen and Curtis, and I'm looking forward to being able to continue these conversations in the future, so that you may be able to continue to do whatever it takes so that you can be able to tell the master of death, not today. Everyone have a blessed day, and look forward to more conversation again soon.